Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Uh, yeah, it's really hard because there are like people all around the globe here watching. I think the good part of um, speaking English is that I was like talking with someone in Pakistan, India, United States, Europe. So yeah, it can be like any time, right?
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'm on East Coast, so it's a good time. It's 10 a.m. here, so we're getting closer to lunchtime, I guess. So it's a good time for sure. Definitely earlier for any West Coast folks.
Yeah, and it's like I think quite afternoon in Europe.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's also Halloween here in the U.S., so that's always good too. So I think at least in the U.S. side, there's lots of candy that to be given out come the evening. So.
so how does it happen? Because Halloween it's not a thing here in Brazil. Actually, like we don't celebrate.
Yeah, it's very it's an interesting holiday. I mean the history behind it is pretty cool, but I guess the modern Halloween is basically the either the weekend before, and sometimes they'll do weekends during events during like if it's in the week, but essentially people just dress up. So you pick your favorite character or whatever. It's like the whole US just does a big cosplay. If you're familiar with cosplay,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
people just dress up as like whatever character they want, and they just go have a good time. For the kids, usually like starting right after school, if it's during the school day, or like like I don't know, sometime around like 3, they just kind of start getting out there into the neighborhood, and people just either they leave candy on their porch, and kids hopefully take one or two pieces. Usually it's like somebody takes like handfuls of it and fills their bag, or like you go knock on the doors and you basically say like trick or treat. Some people get fancy with it, but you do that and people just give out candy. So it's it's a little bit of a strange holiday. Uh, but yeah, people just get lots of free candy. I think some people give out like fruit or raisins, which is like probably the worst. And I think the best Halloween thing I've gone was money. Like somebody just like was giving out like dollar bills or like quarters and stuff. So it's like you get enough of them, you get like maybe like $5 after a good Halloween spree. So that it's not like no money, but
No,
it is
for
what it
kids,
is.
it's just
Yeah,
like I remember like for kids, like I remember that like 10 reais, which is I don't know, like $2.
you're
It's like
rich.
a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
like
a kid, you're
rich.
rich.
I'm rich. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember coming
yeah.
back with my brother, my younger brother, and we'd be like, "Oh, I got like $5. Like this is amazing," or something like that. So yeah, definitely.
I remember that. One day, like me and my brother, like we made a bet. Like if One Piece, which is like a cool anime, will reach like 1,000 episodes.
Yeah,
And we were like 10 and 11, I guess, and they say like if they reach one time, like we'll be like 25, 30. So like by that time, like we'll be like super rich. So like let's just like put like a lot of money there. Like because like when someone like win it, like that would be like they would be like kind of happy because like we will have like much more money.
right, right.
So we put in this like sign letter 50 reais, which is $10.
That's awesome.
Which for us like was like a lot of money, like
Right.
a lot of money. Yeah, and yeah, like $50, like it's a good deal, but yeah, it's yeah, like a
Yeah,
lot of money is cool. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so let's I don't know, let's get started, right?
yeah, sure. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
I
jump
think
into it.
yeah. Yeah, like Kevin shot out from New York. Yeah, so Kevin's live. Hi there,
Nice.
Kevin.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go. Hey,
awesome. Like,
Kevin. Oh man, it's been a long time, Kevin. Hope everything's going well with you.
great.
Yeah,
So are you seeing like the comments? There's like the comments in the right
yeah.
side.
I'm just seeing it as I just saw I
Yeah,
could switch over,
yeah,
so now I can actually see it. Oh, that's awesome. This is a
yeah,
cool
yeah.
platform that you SteamYard. I've not used. I've
Yes.
been on was it a River Studio Riverside? Um, but I've not used SteamYard over this. This is a pretty sweet setup.
Yes, it was like a recommendation. Like I was setting up like how to start LinkedIn Lives,
Mm,
and I really recommend it like to anyone. It never gave me like any kind of headache
nice,
at all.
nice.
And
Yeah.
and the good part is like, for example, like this Pro version. You can like the difference between like the free and the pro versions. Like the Pro doesn't have like any ads, and you can also like download. So like after we finish here, I'll send like the entire live, like, and you and I like we can cut in pieces, and
Oh,
we
that's
can
awesome.
reuse like the material.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, it's
Cool.
pretty sweet. And hi there, Aditya. Nice to meet you, man. Um, yeah, I don't know if it's yeah, um, um, yeah, and
Some more folks popping
yeah,
in. Yeah.
yeah, more folks. So there are like plenty of people. Like cool. So
Nice.
let's go for it. To start, yeah, like let's introduce you, Cody. Like, who are you, man?
Yeah. So I guess right now, I guess what I'm doing at the moment is I'm a founder of Founder Way, which is simplifying how startups are built and supported, and we're doing that using AI and smart tools. So maybe some background how I got here would probably be helpful. So let's see. Uh, so I'll probably start at like Georgia Tech. This is probably where my life kind of veered off course, one might say. So I was going to school for mechanical engineering, got a degree for it. And just before I wrapped up my studies, I got a finance certificate. And that's basically where things kind of took a left turn. So it's like the smallest piece of my studies, but it basically was the biggest impact where there was a really awesome entrepreneur finance course I took from the founder of Tech Square Ventures. Great crash course into the world of startups. We basically took over a project or created your own. So like you actually like started your company in this course, and he actually pulled in investors and advisors to be pitch competition judges for us in the class and give us feedback on our ideas and things like that. So it was really cool. And since then, that was 2016. Since that class, I've been basically a founder, a mentor, and a micro investor. And this was balancing being a full-time technical sales lead, 3x the regional office in 3 years, and then working on a Series A startup building out their sales process. So kind of like a diverse background on my side. And what really got me to pick up the founder hat again is basically I started mentoring more people and just seeing that, you know, the process for them, the journey for them, especially like most of these folks were underserved, like they didn't have like the background or like the education necessarily that someone like going to Stanford or something, or geographically just not in like a hub. And it was just painful to go through that journey for myself, and just seeing others kind of go through that and not getting any better for them. We just decided that, you know, hey, I'm going to start Founder Way and just see if I can help as many people, you know, build their dream company or idea. And so that's basically my background and kind of how I ended up building Founder Way.
Awesome. Like I really want to be in that class.
Yeah.
It sounds like pretty exciting. Especially like if you are like in university, and yeah, it sounds like yeah, a good yeah. And it's really cool like how professors shape like our lives, like, and how good guidance make us like change like completely. Like for example, like I never thought about like trying to be an entrepreneur, like building my company. I've never thought about it, never crossed my mind. And all the times that it crossed it, I discarded like completely. But then I did like a mentorship like a few years ago, and after a couple of talks, like they just, like he just like give me like the reasons and the encouragement to try it
Right.
out. So
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think that, yeah, like without like mentoring and guidance, like it changes a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. I came from, let's see, like my mom is a big entrepreneur as well. She's kind of always doing stuff, but it's not like the tech entrepreneurship that people now typically think of. It was more of like the small business. Like my family had a small auto parts store, and I got to help out when I was younger, and we saw or well, I guess we all got to see what happens when the market takes a left turn and you weren't super ready for it. So I don't know if people are into cars in about early 2000s. Car manufacturers started figuring out that if they sold sports kits or versions of the like sports version of those cars, they could sell it for more and just include it as like a package deal and just get more money for it, as opposed to like people had at that time had to buy like all these accessories and parts and all these other things to make their cars kind of like more like sportier or how they would want to look. I mean, the market is still there, but it's definitely not as big as it once was, and hence why things kind of wrapped up for that shop. But my mom has always kind of worked for herself, and that's kind of like how I've gotten that. And then seeing like again, like my dad was more traditional in terms of his role at his job, but he climbed the ranks, so I kind of got to see both. But none of it was like tech startup type spot. It was like, okay, I'm gonna build a business that's like my own and kind of like small mom and pop shop type thing. And like, yeah, just got to see that. And that class really opened my eyes. It's like, okay, there's a whole nother side of entrepreneurship and building that I just didn't, even know existed really. And like, I think the biggest thing was you could pitch people to invest in your idea, or even before the business was like super like solid as a business, and just being like, wait, you can ask people for money for stuff like that. That kind of just blew my mind as again somebody who just didn't have like that rich uncle that I could like, oh, my rich uncle is investing in things like that. Was just like things that did not cross my mind until like you're exposed to that type of stuff. Yeah, I guess maybe that's maybe a good segue to get into our topic. I guess maybe like how to go
Yeah,
build a company from 0 to 1. I don't know. What do you
yeah,
think?
yeah. I'm just read some comments here. Like Kevin saying, like starting a professional service firm, like focus on BI plus finance and operational reporting into REAT and CRAs as a side project with friends. I am a sales revenue lead, technical deployment leads. Okay, nice background, man.
Yeah, that's
We
awesome.
are working on our first two clients, so this is very relevant to me as we draw up our first
Statement of
SOW.
work.
Yeah,
Yes, statement of
um,
work.
a statement of work. Like, do we offer free work? Um, like
Statement of
I
work.
think he's curious to know like to offering like free work to validate his hypothesis, right?
Yeah,
And finding initial few customers and retaining them is super critical for any startup. Like so relevant. Like thank you. Yeah. So I don't know. Like do you want to start or do we start with this
yeah,
question?
maybe. Yeah, in terms of Kevin's question, yeah, I mean, we'll probably cover a lot of like this the 0 to 1 stuff will help bring some clarity into this. I think in terms of what y'all are doing, if you're already kind of working with two clients, those are kind of the best people to kind of guide you in terms of free work. That kind of depends. As you're starting out, credibility ends up becoming the biggest issue. It's like, okay, what have you done in the past? And I'll touch on this on that 0 to 1. This is kind of a big hurdle as you're trying to get that first customer. And I will say, sometimes you have to do a little bit of free work to get that testimony, or to get like the referral to other folks. So I don't say I'd say don't be afraid of it, but I'd also say like know when to start charging for stuff. So like a lot of service based firms that I'm aware of, they'll do like a free consultancy for like 30 minutes just to review stuff, or they might even do like an hour if it's like a more in-depth review, and they'll actually spin up a plan of like things to do. Let's see, in this case for reporting and things like that, you could end up spitting out something like, hey, this is stuff that you're not reporting on that we can help with, and this is why it's important to do it. We charge, this much or something like that. It'll end up saving you this much money or this much of a headache. Because again, reporting takes a lot of time, especially for like, I'm assuming for REITs and CREs. I mean, there's probably a lot of reporting that has to be done, bookwork that has to be kept. So if you're able to do it and save them time to spend somewhere else, that's usually a good trade-off. And saying like, hey, we saved you this many hours, that's like worth this much of your time typically. So that's a one way to use that free offer to leverage something else to get you through the door. But I think if you ever got customers, chat with them and see what models they seen and like what works for them. That'll be really helpful. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and I see like I think it's a completely different market, but in the dental service, like dentists, some of them like they give you like their first client like a free dental care, because like when people go there and start like talking, like they start like seeing some problems that the person might fix. Like,
Yep,
hey,
exactly.
I think you have like this, and like we can do like a extract session like to cover that.
It's like,
hey,
you got cavities.
You have like this other problem. Like we can do a extra service like to fix that. So like the cleaning is free, but like like since
you
like,
got a lot
you
of
are
other
there like
issues.
with with the customer, like you can try to sell like other stuff. So yeah, I think this works like with playing type of business, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why I mean, in the software space where we are in, freemium model is, where that comes from. We come in, see what we got, let us prove value to you, or that there is value to be gained by using our products and like are using the other tools, and that's how we kind of pull people in on the consumer side, at least.
Yeah, ChatGPT like proved that like how
Yeah.
powerful it is, right? Just yeah. Yeah, so I think we covered a lot here, right? With the Kevin question.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully it helps, Kevin. Listen, if you got anything else, or if you want to expand on some of the questions you got.
Yeah, well, if he like comment more here, like we keep going. But yeah, I think we are good.
Sweet. Should we dive into it? I'm pretty excited.
Yes, let's go for it. Yeah, like I want to know, like yeah. So how is the framework?
Yeah, so in terms of going from 0 to 1, there's tons of books you could read, tons of different like things like Lean Startup, and let's see, there's like all these different like canvases, like business model canvas or lean canvas. I think at the end of the day, what we're starting to see more as like the paradigm of incubators and other advisors and stuff teaching this stuff to folks, or like even innovation hubs at companies or at like that states run in their incubators. What we're really seeing is this thing called design centric thinking, or like customer centric approach. And really what it is you start with your idea, and at every stage you're basically getting feedback. And this is something that I think now seems like, oh, that's the standard. You go and talk to people about your idea, you get that feedback. But before, it was like, I mean, not that long ago, the standard practice was you go and sit down and write like a 30-page business plan, and that was what you had. And from there you shared it with folks, and you kind of tried to update it, but like, how do you update a 30-page document and keep it fresh, So I mean, the startup space is still young. I mean, in comparison to the rest of finance and other topics. I think really like the 80s is when things really started coming together in terms of curriculum and best practices and frameworks for starting a new venture or a new startup. So like the paradigm again is everyone knows the basics is you have to talk to your customers. So we'll start from like an idea stage company. What we're usually seeing is someone's like, hey, I have a solution, but I don't know the problem that it really solves. Or they'll have a problem and not have a solution, and they're kind of like, okay, how do I approach this? And I think in any case, you've got to kind of pick somebody to talk to. And initially, it can be anybody, like your family, friends, to get more understanding of what you're building. And from there, you're able to condense down, and they'll point you in the direction. So, like, if you don't know the problem, these people initially, friends, family, people just like, if you want, just like random folks that you talk to or go on forums, like I think the startup subreddit is really good, and there's like a startups idea subreddit as well. Just like post your ideas there and see what people say, and chat with them, go through the comments, and just work through your target customer group or market, and those are the people you should just start getting more feedback from, and you could start honing your idea. And I think this is the piece that a lot of people skip over, because a lot of ideas come from somebody having a problem themselves and trying to build a solution for it, which is a great way to start something, but the solution is not usually what the market ends up wanting. So I think that's where I think in, at the very beginnings where people get really tripped up, is there's just not enough feedback, unfortunately.
Like I didn't like usually like they have a problem, but the solution that they were able to use doesn't fit the market.
Yeah, exactly. So like, let's go with what's a good one. So I like to think of I think it was Twitch TV, or actually let's do YouTube. YouTube's an even better one. So YouTube originally, people probably, not a lot of people know this, was supposed to be a dating website where you uploaded your like things about yourself, and people would watch the video of you. And that's kind of where YouTube's origins were. I think it was like YouTube was like YouTube videos about you, or so, I forget what the tagline was, but essentially it was there to match people together. And what they ended up doing, because nobody was using YouTube in this way, or they weren't even like getting people in general in, they started giving out, like they went to Craigslist and were like paying people to just jump on the platform and upload videos. And they started figuring out that people were actually just uploading videos about themselves, what they did that day, things that they thought were funny. And this basically was the little bit of momentum they needed to start building on something that is now the current YouTube. So they identified, not that people needed help with dating, it was that they were more taking advantage of this opportunity, that as bandwidth and storage got as bandwidth increased and storage decreased in cost, you can start having like this video everywhere type media that was easy for a normal person to just use and upload. And so again, they were targeting the dating app world. They ended up tackling, like, I guess you'd call it like entertainment and advertising. So again, how solutions and problems typically don't like really actually line up at the beginning for most companies. I mean, even like Slack wasn't really the initial company that they went to build out. Same thing with like Twitch. Like I think Instagram was also another one that was just like not really, wasn't supposed to be Instagram. Like there's all these different companies that hit it off, that you'll see this weird mismatch initially, and they just, again, feedback. I mean, they were further along when they got their feedback, but again, just talking to their customers, being there with their customers, is how they kind of successfully went from, in their cases, maybe the 1.5 to like 1 million. But again, the process is still the same: 0 to 1, 1 to 100, whatever you want to say. Like you just really need to be in there and talking to your customer.
So I think like the journey, like 0 to 1, it's kind of a turbulent journey, right? Because it's the same that like you get into a plane to go, for example, to United States, and
Yeah,
then
you end up
in
in
the
Europe.
middle of the trip, and you decided that, hey, we are not gonna get there.
Yeah.
So like go to England then. They're just like turn and
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think probably the biggest thing I could probably recommend people doing is take it in terms of stages of de-risking. You know your business well enough that what are like the biggest risk factors of your idea. I think let's see, let's pick a good one. Like in Uber's case, right? Like a huge risk factor was like, will people even like user app to call a car to come pick me up as opposed to a taxi. Like, is that behavior, like, is that something that we can change? Like, how do you change that behavior, and what do you target to fix that? And there's tons of other ways other companies have like all these other problems, and there's different ways to solve it. And probably an easier one that's maybe closer to the zero is if you have an idea, how do you just validate that people want your idea or the solution, and just like make a landing page? People get really focused on building stuff, instead of validating at the early stage, where people will dump tons of time and energy into just building out a solution when they've not even tested if the solution is right. Again, getting the verbal feedback is great, but even better, put it on a landing page, hone your messaging, hone what the problem is, and just start a wait list. I mean, if people don't have money to like go full time or something like that, or to commit to resources even as a part-time endeavor, having that wait list can actually lead you to raising money, because having a strong wait list that you garnered over, a short period of time is enough traction for many pre-seed investors. Granted, market is not that great for investing and getting funds right now, so you might not, it's going to be tough, but you'll be way farther ahead of other folks, and then you'll know that, hey, this is my list of people when I do start building, that you can actually like tap on them. And I forget the company now. There's a company, they actually did use this in a stage process where they started with a landing page. Then they, instead of the sign up button or like give us your email, they changed it to a like buy now, or like the pricing page. So it would go to a pricing page. They actually tested pricing this way too, so that when you clicked on it, instead of going to buy the product, it went to a sign up to be notified when this is ready. And so they tested everything without building a single piece of the product. And so they had pricing validation, they had customer validation. And from there, I mean, I believe they probably raised money. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the company right now, but like they basically were able to raise off of that and just build, because everything was there. They had a clear roadmap based on all the validation that they got from their landing page and signups.
Yeah, I think that like for products that are not like super complex and you have like a clear idea of like how you're going to fix it, this is a great way to go. But like I'm thinking that like if the product is a bit more complex like to do, and it's going to take like some time, like how do you go, for there, from there?
Yeah, so
Because like for example, like YouTube, like I was thinking about the example of YouTube, like because like they did something like pretty unique. Because I remember that like the way you upload files, like videos, like they take a lot of like bandwidth, and like with YouTube, like there was like plenty of advantage that just like made them like pretty, and it was like way more like user friendly. So like it was like all those cool features like they were building along the way that allowed them like to make the turn. Because like sometimes like you have like this problem, and then you made the solution, and then you realize that the solution doesn't solve like this problem but solve like that other problem. Like
yeah, so I think again, it's for simpler solutions. I'll say like maybe what you're getting into is like deep tech stuff, where there needs to be some tech built to test it, even if it's like gonna work. Like you got to prototype some of the actual technology that's there. Like we talked like YouTube, for instance, they had to build up like the server architecture, like how they compress the videos, how they save the videos, how they kind of serve it back up like this. We take it for granted. Like we're on a live stream right now through a consumer product. Like how crazy is that? Like YouTube, like when YouTube came out, like this would have been like their dream to have like some type of video that everyone could just like be using video media as their content form. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you still need to talk to people. So it's kind of like um, a lot of like research projects at universities that kind of turn and go into like the commercialization. They run into this issue a lot too. And in either way, you have to identify the problem at some point. And the problem might not be right initially, but you still need a plan of attack. You can't just kind of like go out there just like, hey, I'm going to build this thing and we're just going to see what happens. Like YouTube had their plan. It was all around dating, right, at that time. And then they saw that, hey, we'll let the users drive the usage, like the use case, but they still had someone to focus on. And the reason you do this is because if you have something to focus on, it helps streamline the rest of your decision making. So if you're, again, we were using YouTube, so we'll just continue using it, right? So if they're all about the dating piece, right, they'll know who they need to run ads for, right? Their ads can be targeted towards people who are dating and want this new method to find their next person. So that's one piece of it. And in terms of like the validation, you can talk to those people, right? If you're serving up a solution, you don't have a target audience. Like, how do you know who to get feedback from? How will you figure out, okay, whose feedback do you listen to, for instance, right? Or how do you weigh the feedback to say like, hey, this person's feedback weighs more than this because, you know, they're closer to my target, or, you know, they're experiencing the problem right now, you know? So it's harder to weigh and get feedback without that target. So again, maybe to reiterate, that was a long way of saying you still need to talk to people. Even if you're deep tech, the problem still has to be there that you're trying to tackle. And maybe you end up changing, but only, you know, that's kind of like hindsight. Like you can't go into something thinking you're going to change. Like that doesn't help anybody. There needs to be some commitment and trying to de-risk assumptions.
Yeah, like, but because you are talking about like we were talking about like two different strategies, right? Like we have like this landing page where they validated everything. Like if YouTube went in this path, maybe they would shut like the project like before like this huge investment. I think that YouTube, like they made these investments, they have this idea. I think they did the hypothesis, like they made the investment to ended up like seeing that it wasn't like a good fit, right? So yeah, like what I'm thinking is that like maybe you do like all the pricing and then you failed like to validate your hypothesis, but that doesn't mean that there is an opportunity there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole point of it is, let's see. Oh, we got someone. Let's see. Talk to your customer
Yeah.
has a very different slant. So I guess I'll read down to the main question. It's about B2B sales and talking to your customers and how it's different when you're talking to them. And it says, what has our experience been with talking to all the different stakeholders, and what advice do you have for highly technical B2B sales? That's a really good question. So yeah, right now this is kind of like consumer stuff is what we've been focusing on. I think at the end of the day, it's still very similar. So for FounderWay, we have a support side that we're building, and we're working with organizations like universities and incubators. And so, and again, my previous role was in technical sales, and it was also B2B hardware and software. So in terms of my experience, I think you still need to talk to them. And again, each like in a B2B world, every stakeholder or person we call like in the buying center, so the folks that are responsible for purchasing things, will have their different needs and problems. So as a consumer, you're kind of getting it all in one package, right? You're getting the person who's dealing with the money, the problem, and will end up using the tool that they're buying. Like as a consumer product, that's all wrapped up into one person. In the B2B side, it's usually multiple people that you're talking to, right? So you'll get finance people have the budget set, and they need you to justify the budget. Like, what is the ROI on them spending $20 per seat? Is it, you know, double the ROI? How did you get to that number? In terms of like the people that decide, they'll have different goals. So let's say like for us, if it's an innovation person, they're trying to figure out, you know, how can we produce a program that can scale and work for as many people as possible in our community. So it's like that's maybe a decision maker's goal or focus that they're trying to work through. But then there's like the end user where like there maybe the manager has somebody else who's kind of watching over the program, in tracking metrics and things like that. And their goal may be to collect metrics to track progress for figuring out what resources are needed for each cohort of founders that they're working with. Or it could be they're just looking to save time on generating reports because it's, reports take a long time, but they need it for funding. So it's on the B2B side, it's all about getting all of these different facets of the buying center's wants and needs from all the stakeholders and combining that into a plan for yourself to go and attack on. And so hopefully that helps in there. And especially with the highly technical side for B2B, it becomes, again, like everything just gets more pronounced, right? Because now the budget guy, like you got to focus on the finance person a little bit more because they're not going to understand really the technical aspect of what's going on and why it's important. So there's a lot of like trying to focus on people to help and dumb down things or simplify things so that it's easier to explain and get the message across of this is why this person needs this, and using language that like an everyday person would use, as opposed to like, and if let's say like you're in a computing like deep tech space, there's probably tons of vocab that you and I will never know what that vocab is, but you have to take that and explain it to, say, the finance person or like the manager who may be aware of everything, but they're not understanding the problem very clearly because they're not the user of that product that you're trying to sell to their team. So again, on the B2B side, it's similar. You still need to talk to everyone and get feedback, but as opposed to having one person to go to, there's just lots of different people to go to.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like how about like how you're going to validate, because like the thing about the B2B, like especially for like high tickets, is that like you have to convince like different people. Like it's basically like ABM, right? So account based marketing. That you say like the decision making is not like one person, it's like account. So like we are not seeing like the sale being held by one person, like the company to a person, but a company to a company, like with multiple persons that have like multiple, pain and desires,
Right.
And like how you craft.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're tackling a problem for somebody, right? And there is that the messaging that you have to create all kind of gets grounded by that problem. So if let's go with we'll do what Founder Way is doing as an example. So for us, right, like our goal is we are making it simple to help support startups. What does that mean? For us, we have a program that's low touch that can also be paired with high touch programs. So if someone's got like an in-person like workshop that they do every week for their cohorts, they can pair that with our programming and use our AI that gets personalized by responses to these the questions and things that are asked to help, again, form a co-pilot for the user or the founder. And so that's kind of like the problem that we're set out, and what our product is this. And the way that it helps the different people in the organization would be the budget person, instead of having to like figure out how to pay or hire mentors and things like that, there's an AI we can lean on. Instead of having to build out a separate platform that then also they'd have to like figure out how to get somebody to make AI work, we have a platform that's singular in terms of saving time and things like that. We are right now, a lot of folks have to do basically like surveys in email. It's very low tech how like the startup space is actually run, and it's like, okay, so everything's manual with the data collection and putting it somewhere. We are saving that time and making their lives easier by saying, hey, people are organically working within the platform as a founder, and we are surfacing their progress and metrics to you as the incubator, and now you can generate reports around it and things like that. So again, that's like maybe an example that somebody can lean on to how we're focusing on the problem and making the messaging unique to each person in the buying center or the stakeholders involved with buying the product.
Yeah, it's complex.
Yeah, I mean that's why B2B sales is hard. But once you get in, organizations and why enterprise sales is such like a we'll call it like on such a big throne, especially in the startup space, is because if you can do the work and get in, it's really hard to get unseated. And you usually have them for at least six to 12 months because it takes time to move a company off of a product once they've set their goals on it. Like I guess again, it's harder to steer a big ship in a different direction as opposed to a tiny boat. So a consumer being a tiny like speedboat that you can turn, you know, however you want, wherever. But a big company being a large ship, like once they're set and they've bought something and they've onboarded folks, it takes a lot of energy and money and time to like get off of products that they've selected. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but like the journey is like 0 to 1 is much more extensive, right? Because the buying
Yeah, it's
process is way more, extensive.
yeah, exactly. And I think maybe I'll do like a bit of an overview. So we kind of started on like, hey, if you just have an idea and you work through that, get some feedback, and at that point, then you can start kind of doing like a low tech version of your MVP, and you test that with your target audience as well. And this is where you'll get feedback on like, okay, we don't need this tool, but we do need this, or this tool would be better if it had this type of interface, or if it's a hardware product, it might be this doesn't look that like it feels kind of cheap because like how it's all like the materials being used, but I think it serves a function. But or they might say like with playing around with your low tech hardware, whether it's like a 3D print or something, it's like, hey, this joint breaks a lot, or it just broke because there's just way more stress on it than you thought it would be. So there's like all these low tech ways to de-risk what's going on with your product before you like really commit and start coding. And kind of getting to what we were talking about with Kevin, where like once you start to try and sell your product, you start running into issues around credibility and trust because you're a new product, your new software. I mean, I'm sure people now, plenty of people have done a Kickstarter and funded one, and you're always wondering, am I going to get my money back, or am I going to get a product, or in the worst case, like, am I going to get nothing, or like maybe like half of my money? So that's the same thing, if you're building a company and you're trying to get that first customer, that's what's going through their mind. And really the best way to kind of combat this stuff is picking design partners. For instance, like if you're a B2B person, pick a company that has a problem and that's innovative and wants to go through that journey with you so that you can build a tool with them, and you end up getting a customer that will pay for it at the end of the day, hopefully. And at the same time, they're giving you all this feedback in direction. And for them, instead of paying for like a dev team to build something for them, they have you to build it. So it's kind of an exchange of free labor, but you get somebody that's going to help you really zero in on what needs to be built. And that's like, again, sometimes you have to do a little bit of free work to get the testimony, the feedback, or something like that. And in terms of for us, for a consumer product as well, kind of going that angle, freemium is there's there for a reason, right? So I'd say don't be afraid of doing stuff for free. Just remember to try and get stuff out of it as much as you can, because again, it costs you time and energy to do these things. So make sure you're getting the most out of that experience, right, and leveraging whatever you're doing for free as much as possible.
Yeah, and you touch like a point here that I'm curious about. That's like the MVP part, because I think like for for some products it's like you said, like there's not very complex. You can like build everything, like the landing page, like even the pricing, like get the wait list, and then with the wait list you can start building or even like get funding. But like when you start, like you want to validate your hypothesis, I think like first you have like an idea, like you start talking to your customers, but like and then you say like, okay, I'm gonna build like an MVP, and then you talk more to our customers to validate, and then like you go to try to sell. Like like how long like like each of those steps like they take, and when like it's time to
Move.
actually
Yeah.
like move, like when's the time
So
like from go like from
yeah.
idea to MVP and MVP for like actually selling.
So my personal take is you should always be selling. I mean, as a founder, that's kind of you're starting out day zero, you're selling your idea. And that's why you're getting the feedback, is because you're basically selling your idea to your friends and families to see like, hey, is there interest? So in terms of selling, you should always be selling. I mean, to anyone and everyone, because the more feedback you get, the better. And in terms of the stage lengths, it does depend. Sometimes you get stuck in the landing page area, or you get stuck trying to iterate on what should be in the MVP. Like you draft up designs for it, you show it to people, and people are just not really agreeing with what you have, and at least you're getting the feedback, and that's what's key here, so that you can iterate on the MVP. And these things take time. It's definitely not like overnight success is definitely not the norm, nor does it actually the reality. I mean, like people think ChatGPT was like this overnight success, but AI has been in development for like decades. Like really the only thing that got ChatGPT or like OpenAI off the ground was a paper that got put out like I think it was like 5 years ago by Google. So like that's some hindsight. Like people have been working on AI for a very long time, and again, maybe your product isn't going to be like that, but deep tech typically takes years to even get out of the MVP stage. But again, as a consumer product, maybe to keep it lighter and a little bit easier for people to relate to, it just depends, unfortunately. But that's why at every stage you're talking to customers, because what you really don't want to happen is you rush through the process. You now have this MVP out, and nobody wants to use it. I think the worst story I heard was there was an incubator manager that I was talking to, and she was like, yeah, this person just came in to ask for advice, and she just spent 60 grand of her inheritance, which is basically all of it, on building a prototype. And now nobody wants to use it. And so that is like the worst case scenario. Like 60 grand is like a lot of money for an MVP to have nothing to show for it, basically. And kind of like, again, you might not put 60 grand down, but if you spend like, I don't know, like 6 months building this thing, that's 6 months you can't get back. Where if you had spent that 6 months validating, you might be able to pick 3 core features of an MVP to build around, and that at least you'll get users, and the feedback will be that you're directionally correct. And maybe there's like different things you need to add or tweak, but at least you're directionally correct and people want to use your solution. So that's kind of like the goal, is always checking in at every stage before you move on, so that you know that you're directionally correct.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I start because like for B2B, I think it's kind of the same. It's a bit more complex,
Yeah,
but
it's
like
more complicated.
yeah, but like you can talk to them as like a kind of like a survey, right? Start like running surveys.
Survey or talk to people. You'd be surprised. I think a lot of people are scared to reach out and cold call or cold email people, but most people just want to help. And if you're helping them solve a problem that they really, really want to solve, they'll help you. I mean, again, we are very fortunate that we're talking to the right schools and talking to the right people that do have the problem that we're solving and are investing their time with us and forming partnerships with us, so we can test and figure out how we can integrate with their programming. And these people exist. Like there are companies out there that literally have innovation arms, like whole departments. All their job is to look for innovations to use, and these people will talk to you. And so no matter what industry you're in, these folks will talk to you. And even if you're just a B2C person where it's not as complex, people want in general to be a part of something, right? So especially new stuff, like if you're creating something new, most people want to help and be like, man, I just got off this call with this guy solving this, and man, that felt good to be able to help him. Like it feels good to help, that's how, and people are there. So just don't be afraid to ask. for that type of feedback and just work with folks because they're all out there. And again, that's if there's one thing like people come away with this talk is that you need to get feedback all the time on like every part of the journey. It's part of the things that people don't like to do, and it gets sidelined often when higher priority things come up. But it will save you a lot of time and money if you do it.
Yeah, I think like the biggest challenge is to validate, right? And once like you have things validated, and then you start to scale.
Yep, exactly. Usually, what typically happens from like a startup's perspective is you keep everything as low as you can in terms of burn and expenses while you validate and test. And once you hit something like market pull, where people are reaching out to you because people are talking and saying like, hey, this person shared this with me and I'm using your product now, or like, how can you help me? Because in our case, like if a school shared it with another school and we got outreach from them, it's like, hey, we're getting market pull, which we've had schools reach out to us for their first time, and that was huge. Having someone reach out to you means like you're on the right steps, and that word of mouth is really the thing that is knows that you're on a path, will help you know that you are on a path to success, because that means you don't have to spend marketing to acquire every single customer. Like you've hit a nerve and your product is good enough that people are just sharing it, and that's how you know that something is there for sure.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we are like almost like hitting our time here.
Yeah, maybe
yeah, we can.
I was gonna say maybe I could give a little bit of a background on Foundry, what I'm working on. I know we tried to keep it very high level and away from like the preachy plug type stuff, which again I'm appreciative. I don't always like selling in these type of situations, but I think in terms of the topic and what we're doing, maybe it'd be beneficial if I just explain a little bit of what we're doing for like people who want to start their business and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. Explain like what it is and what problems do you solve.
Yeah. So for Founderway, again, for the 0 to 1 piece, we actually provide a free workflow for anyone who's just starting out. And so we've got that from analyzing 1,500 companies. My co-founder and I have worked with over 200 founders, and my co-founder specifically has put together curriculums for incubators and things like that. So between the two of us, we've done a lot of research and work, and we've basically compressed that process into about 30 questions, and it's covered in 4 levels, help you go from, idea, validation through feedback, getting an MVP together, and actually launching your MVP. So in those 4 levels, we call them, you basically get the full process, and it's free to go through it. So if anybody just wants to clarify answers and figure out if they're on the right track or if they missed anything, because the biggest thing we hear is, hey, I'm a founder and I don't know what I don't know. And then all of a sudden that piece that they didn't realize they had to know about comes out of nowhere and blindsides them. And now they're kind of like, things are on fire. So we hope that we can at least clarify that. And we use AI tools to help facilitate the learning. So we have instant AI feedback on any response that you give, so you can hone it with our AI as if you're working with an advisor. And we take all of the responses and we actually give everybody their own personalized business co-pilot or business assistant. And so it'll know all the things about your business, so you can start asking it, okay, marketing questions, sales questions, general feedback on the business and what to do next. Like it will have all of these things because you told us in the workflow or through our smart tools, like the business model canvas or the lean canvas, whatever you kind of like. And so if you're a founder, definitely check us out. We have great feedback and testimony that we clear up a lot of the friction on starting a business and making sure you get all the pieces right. And on the innovation side, innovation or venture manager side, if you have a program and want to see how you can use AI in a digital platform to scale up your high touch programs, or to even have a free resource for your community. So a lot of universities will have programs for their students that are like kind of free resources. That's where we're playing with right now. Like we're working with different universities to provide that. We have a great pilot partnership with VCU where we're doing that. So again, we're working with folks, and we're here to help make supporting or building a startup super simple.
Awesome. Awesome. And yeah, like if you have like those three people that
Yeah.
you'd like to recommend, just
Yeah, I was
um,
thinking about this one because what you asked this question like on your previous one, so I'd say like I had to pick a couple. I'm sorry if you're in my network or in my friends group or whatever, you didn't get mentioned. I'm super sorry. I think all the stuff you're doing is great, but I had to pick some because this is like marketing and entrepreneurship. I figured someone you should try and get on is Andy Anthony from Inside.com. She's there. I think she just became their CMO, if I remember correctly. So she's awesome. I was just at their Meet Our Fund event, and that team in general is amazing. And she did a lot of the marketing work for that. So again, I point to her. She's a great resource. I'm still chatting with her and getting some help on marketing stuff. So she's just great for marketing all around. Keeping to like the marketing side, Hana Amori. She's actually someone that I'm helping advise them as they're going through their process, and she's the founder of AI Marketing Flow, and so they're building basically technical SEO tools and crawlers that are, I guess, basically better than what's out there and taking advantage of AI to do it. And so she's a technical SEO person that has a knack for building these things, and now she's getting lots of different attention and lots of progress. So I think she'd be great to have on and just go through technical SEO for anybody that wants to understand that better. I think SEO is like this really nebulous topic. So just having someone on that's an expert and talking about how they're making it, easier for those folks would be good. And then there is a person that I recently met who's doing some really interesting work. His name's called Mr. Alfred Jr. So he does a lot of design thinking programs, and he's actually got a group. I think it's called Design Thinking RVA. So out here in Richmond, Virginia, he's leading this group that's using design thinking to solve problems all around the city. And so I think, again, focusing back to like this design thinking way of building and solving problems, it really is a powerful framework to use for whatever you're trying to tackle, however big this or small the problem is. Like, it's really good to just understand a problem, understand the people that are experiencing the problem, and build in that manner so that you don't, again, end up with a 30-page business plan that like hasn't been validated at all.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. It sounds like it's going to be like a very CMO, like technical SEO and design thinking, like awesome. Yeah, I look forward to talk to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so the final considerations, which is like super quick questions, just like to end in a light tone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so let's go. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I was pretty excited for this section. So let's do what questions you got.
One trip.
One trip. Oh,
Yeah.
right now, New Zealand has been a place my wife and I have been really wanting to go visit. So that'd be one trip right now. I'd say New Zealand. It changes from year to year, but that's the big one on our bucket list right now.
Yeah, if you want some advice, we can talk about it because I've lived there for
that's
more
awesome.
than a year.
Yes, we need to chat.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. One sport.
Ooh. This is going to be like a really nerdy response, but gaming, like esports stuff, is something. So I'm still a big gamer in terms of like how I spend my downtime and how I de-stress and hang out with friends. So the esports area is pretty fun, especially like it's kind of like if you play the game and watch the professionals play it, you just get better, and it's fun to watch and see like the cool stuff they do. I am kind of weaning off of Apex Legends, if people know that game. That was a game that I really enjoyed playing, and the competitive scene for that is really strong.
Apex.
Yeah, Apex Legends, APEX Legends. So yeah, it's a battle royale shooter game. But yeah, some people might say it's not the great game to relax to, but it helps get my mind off of work. So
yeah, my brother he loves like he the game he likes the most, like Dota. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
he
yeah. That
watched
that
the
esports scene is
professional.
huge.
Yeah. One video game.
Oh,
Um,
so I just said Apex Legends, but let's see. My favorite video game of all time has got to be this horror game called Dead Space. It was the first game I actually completed more than once and enjoyed every second of it. It's a little dated. I think it's like 10 years old now or something like that. But it was. I'm not even like a big horror game to be specific, but like in that genre, I don't really play it a bunch. But Dead Space was just like the storytelling, the character, the gameplay was really unique at the time. Like everything was just really, really put together. And yeah, that'd be like one game. If I was going to pick my favorite, that'd be it.
awesome. And one animal.
What was that? One
One animal.
animal.
One. Yeah.
Oh, oh man. I've had a couple. I feel like my favorite animal has changed as I've gotten older. I think of frogs. Frogs are pretty cool. They're like
Frogs.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're, I don't have a real reason for it. I've really liked frogs recently. They're kind of like these cool tiny animals that just like get around and they just do the
Yeah.
thing, you know.
They walk differently, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a
They
little
walk
they
gently,
hop
like
around. They're
yeah.
amphibians, so that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think I don't know. Frogs are pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Startups remind you of what?
Ooh. Startups remind me of excitement.
Awesome.
I think being a startup, there's if someone asked me this actually, like, what is one word you describe your startup journey? And I was like, exciting. For better or for worse, it's exciting. And you know, you're trying to do something new. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One goal for 2020, 2024.
One goal for 2024. I'd say it'd be to land our first couple B2B clients. That'd be that's our goal right now for 2024 in terms of business.
Awesome. And one word that defines you.
Whew. Logical. I think that's probably the one that comes to mind. I'm a pretty logical person. For better or for worse, I could be very logical at times, especially at times when maybe it's not needed to be logical. But that's something that I'm very like process oriented and stuff like that. So that would be the word I'd use to describe myself.
Yeah. Engineers, right?
Yeah. I might have turned to the business world, but that engineering training is very hard to remove from myself. Once it's trained into you, it's hard to get out of that mindset.
Yeah, but it's a strength. It's definitely a strength.
Yeah. I'd like to think so. You know, there are certain situations where it doesn't help, but for the most part, I think it's been a very good strength and benefit to have so far.
Yeah. Cody, that was it.
That was awesome. That was a blast. That hour did not feel like that long. But I appreciate the time and kind of inviting me on to chat with you. This is really fun.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for the comments. It was like pretty cool. So yeah. Bye. You can stay here, right? But I'll end the live. Bye, guys.
Yep. See y'all.